Okay, so live you are indeed. So hey guys, I'm just going to do a bit of a weekend recap on the weekend results of the rugby. So a lot of people said to me that I haven't, posted a lot on my channel, and for good reason. I didn't always have the time to do so. But I'm here today, obviously, to talk about the weekend's action. The Springboks were back in action after, I think it was 19 months. So it's been a while since the boys in green were playing, and I'm still wearing my jersey from Friday night. I did wash. The jersey's still dirty, though, so not the worst thing in the world. It's not like I left the house in any case. But yeah, I have a friend of mine joining as well. Just waiting for him to give me the cue. And we'll be talking obviously on what happened this past weekend results wise, and you guys obviously welcome to ask any questions you'd like, rugby related of course, not asking when you can we have a beer, or if Uncle Sal's going to open the bottle store next week or anything like that. So keep it rugby related, and I'll answer them as I see them. So yeah, I'm just waiting now for this man to just join for me. He sent a message now, so I'll just tell him to see if I can invite him quickly. I haven't done the IG live thing in quite a while, so let me just see how this thing works. Yeah, okay, no, it's fine. He will join in now, he said. So yeah, just waiting for him to join, and we can start talking, all things rugby. Just send you a message quickly. Okay, here we go. Let me just check. Eventually. So let me just see if there's a connection. It said he joined, but I don't see him. Let me just see if it pops up soon. Oh, there we go.
Okay, net.
Almost there. This is Steenkamp. How are you, man?
Hi, Angus. Thanks for having me. Now I'm fine. I'm really looking forward to this chat, We've had a busy weekend, and the Boks are finally back on the page. So, no, it's exciting times, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And how's things down in Bloemfontein? Is it warm or cold, or what's the
No,
story
it's
down
cold.
there?
It's cold. Let me tell you, the mornings and the evenings, there is no place to hide. The days are nice. We got temperatures in the low 20s, high teens. So that's very nice, very comfortable. But the other morning it was -8 and -7. And, you feel it. Getting up is tough in the morning. It's not easy.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was in 2009, I went with the school tour to Durban. We drive via Bloemfontein. And the bus was obviously air conditioned, so you didn't feel anything. And we got out at the garage, and I could feel my toes turning into ice blocks. So that's how pretty cold it was. It was the first time I ever felt such coldness, so I can imagine what it is like. But so we're going to here to talk about the weather, obviously. We're going to talk about this weekend's action, and so I'm just going to go through the results, but we'll touch on two games especially. So first up, we had Romania going down to Argentina, 17 points to 24. Wales beat Canada, 68 points to 12. Ireland scraping past Japan, 39-31. And then the last two games I want to talk about, we're going to do it one by one, is New Zealand 102, Tonga, zip, nada, no. Now, there's been a lot of talk on that game, and people saying, what's the point of having such matches if it's going to be polarizing to one side? Once team's players can't be available, obviously. A lot of players were in quarantine, apparently, of the Tongan guys, and also some of them were not available due to club commitments. So a lot of question marks around whether it was a good thing for a near full strength, actually a full strength All Black side, to play against a club Tongan side, you can say. It was literally club players and workmen-like guys, putting on a national jersey and being embarrassed, against a very good New Zealand team. Do you think that that match should have gone ahead, and do you think that New Zealand could have actually taken anything from a match like that, or do you think it probably should have been cancelled and not be played at all?
No, I'm all for that game that it happened, and even though the scoreline is extremely lopsided, You know, I spoke to Namadi Nadolo earlier in the week, who's in the Fiji camp. And they set up camp in Christchurch. The whole squad is there. I think they're missing only something like 3 or 4 players, also due to logistics. But they pretty much, very much a full squad, you know, except for 1 or 2 or 3, I don't know. A very small amount of players that can't be there. And they set up camp in Christchurch and they're preparing there and all that. Now, that immediately begs the question, Angus, if Fiji can do it, why can't Tonga do it? I mean, yes, I can understand that when you've got COVID cases and that's not in your own hands, pretty much. But still, they knew about these games long in advance. They could have made the arrangements and you know, entered into communication with the clubs and have the players released earlier or released at all. I don't know exactly the ins and outs of that. But they could have done their preparation much better, I think. You know, to their credit, they didn't complain. You know, they didn't look for excuses, and you know, they said, "Now, listen, this is what it is. It's a tough game, and we played it, and thanks to the opportunity, and that's what it is." You know, do you remember when the Tri Nations was expanded to become the Rugby Championship, and Argentina came in? Everybody said these guys are going to be destroyed, and they're going to lower the standard of the competition, even though it's good for them to you know to grow and to become a better team and a better setup. Everybody said that initially, in any event, the standard of the competition will go down, and everybody was wrong. They have since beaten all the other 3 teams, and convincingly. You know, last year when they beat the All Blacks, it was a thumping, man. It wasn't a scraping, close, lucky result with a penalty that could have taken the game either way. They were all over those All Blacks. It was beautiful to see. And I'm not anti-New Zealand. I'm all for the game, you know. And I have a soft spot for the Blues, and I like the All Blacks, man. I think they're a likable team. But it was nice to see Argentina beat them. And so, yes, you know, if you can take them as an example and the way they've grown and become a very mature team, and they you know, they're a threat. Nobody wants to play against them because if you're not on your A game, you're going to get it. So, you know, and they started at the bottom. So if we can see more of these games, and if the Aussies can now come next year and then they can host these Pacific Islanders and, you know, have a little mini tournament like we're having now in New Zealand, I mean, why not? I'm all for it, you know, and we will see them grow as time goes on. New Zealand wasn't stretched yesterday, but they're the All Blacks. They arguably the best side in the world right now. If not the best, then they're up there with the Boks. But this will change, you know. You will have the likes of Tonga and the Samoans who will come up against, albeit an arguably average Australian side in the future. So, you know, the Aussies aren't right there, so you will get those kind of matchups, and the odd result will come. So I think I've said a hell of a lot now, but what I'm actually trying to get at is, I think it's good that these games happen. The Fijians will bring another dimension of the game to the All Blacks next week, and I'm looking forward to it. Yes, they probably won't beat them. No, they won't beat them. Let's be honest about it. But it won't be 100. And they will be competitive, I think, at least until halftime. Maybe a little bit after. And then, obviously, the class of the All Blacks should be too much for them. But I'm all for it. These games need to happen. It's the only way these nations are going to become competitive and become battle-hardened. And I'm looking forward to it. I want to see more of them.
Yeah, look, the Tongan team had 13 debutants, which was quite a lot.
Yes.
They probably could have made a plan. But you need to bear in mind as well, I think we've also, as Africans, have battled with overseas clubs and player releases. As you said, you know, when he took over, he's going to enforce Regulation 9 of World Rugby and make sure that players get released. Because even when you took over, we had a problem with Bismarck and with, I think it was France at the point in time. So that was a bit of a logistic nightmare for him as well. But I hear what you're saying. Obviously, this game needs to happen. And I do feel, if you said you spoke to Namani, that the Fiji squad is quite almost full strength. It'll be a very good game. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, we don't want to see scores like 102-0. because, I mean, we celebrated during the World Cup the mere fact that there was no 100 score put on any team. I mean, Uruguay beat Fiji for that match in the World Cup. So
Yes, they did.
it's famous that we want to see progression. Japan went from losing 145-17 to New Zealand in 95 to beating South Africa, you know, in 2015 and beating Ireland and Scotland in 2019 and making a quarterfinal. It's those kinds of fairy tales and growth you want to see in teams. Same for the USA. And it's not going to do anyone well to be beaten by that much. But be that as it may, happen now. And hopefully down the line, if there should be another match like this, to make sure that everything's in place and there is no case of, you know, players not being available and all of those kind of things. But let's move on to the next match that's more applicable to you and me. It is South Africa up against Georgia. A few things stood out for me. I'm not sure what stood out for you, but the discipline was a bit of an issue, I feel. There was a bit of rustiness, but I think after 16 months, it was sort of expected, to be honest. But also a few good things. I feel Apelele Fasi did a very good debut. I wouldn't say I'm disappointed, you know, with Speckman, but he didn't get a lot of opportunities, so that wasn't his fault per se. He just wasn't brought into the game enough. And then obviously the more important things now is that Eben Etzebeth suffered a rib injury, and we're not sure of his availability for the Lions still going ahead. Who do you think, you know, might be the men to step up should Eben not be available? And also Arjen Snyman apparently needs to get a skin transplant. This is all stuff I hear from the grapevine, but I'm not confirming anything. But if those two guys are unavailable, who do you think should step up, you know, in their positions?
Angus, just focusing on your question regarding the locks, because I have quite a lot to say about the game as well, but we'll get to that. I don't think it's, you know, it's replacing a player the likes of Eben Etzebeth. That's a tall order. But we do have depth, you know. We've got Franco Mostert now. If you think back to the World Cup final, where he was on the bench and then Loot, the Jager, got injured early in the game. And Franco came on and he played the game of his life. He looked like he deserves a place in the starting 15, which he does. You know, there is a world-class player. We have, and people here in South Africa aren't too familiar with him, but Nico Jansen van Rensburg of Montpellier, I actually know him personally. That guy is one of the very best locks in the world right now. He forms an awesome combination with Paul Willemse, who plays for France. And he has speed. People don't know this. He ran 100 meters hurdles at school, at office, in matric. He has the record. He has a school record. That guy is deceptively fast. Okay?
So
he can double as...
Sorry to stop you there. And so basically, we have a guy that can play loose forward as well, with that sort of speed.
He can. Yes, he can. He played the last year in France. He played at flank. A couple of games at lock, but he can do both. And they switch him around mid-game. They'll start him at flank, and then once the substitutions come on, he moves into lock, and they bring another flanker on. Box can do the same. So you've got Mostert, and you've got Van Rensburg, and you've got Marvin Orrie, who's more than decent player who can come off the bench. Will they have the better of the likes of Maro Itoje? I said they will at the very least match them. I'm not too worried about the lock. What I am worried about is centre. Frans Steyn is looking perhaps half a yard slow. The age isn't his best friend right now. We have to be honest about that. He's had a stellar career. He won 2 World Cups. But fact is, he's probably not right where he needs to be right now. And it's not his fault. It's fact. Okay? The other... when you look at Damian Dalenda, who's also badly burnt, he can't do any training now. He can't jog, he can't do weights, he can't do a thing. He just sit there and wait. So the open question is, will he be ready by the time the first test against the British Lions comes? I'm not convinced he will be. And that is the kind of player that he cannot replace. We're very blessed in the lock department. We've got capable players to step up. Centre, I'm not so sure. I would bring a guy like Jan Serfontein in, but for some other reason, the Boks Brains Trust don't see value in him, or I don't know what their thinking is with young Serfontein. I'm a massive fan of him. He attacks the space well. He puts his centre partner away. He puts his wing away. He combines well in any setup. So he will fit in easily. So what we're going to do at centre, I don't know. But lock, I'm not too worried about.
Yeah, it's something I haven't thought of much, to be honest. It's a good thing you bring it up now because I always thought on the impression Damien is okay to play, although he suffered burns, but I didn't know he's not able to train even. So that's quite a worry in itself. His namesake, Damien Willemse, came off the bench and played centre, which apparently was a good thing, I think, because he actually played ball there. But, he's still very much inexperienced. Then, of course, under Esterhuizen, won the premiership with Harlequins. That's another option. So not the worst, guy to bring in. But again, you mentioned another experienced campaign in Jan Serfontein. And if you think about it, it's guys that play together. So you have Reinach at 9, Pollard at 10, Serfontein at 12. These are all guys that play for one period together. It's a combination that actually knows each other. So it's not the worst thing in the world to bring him into the squad, familiarizing with the systems. And if need be, you have decent backup, if you get thrown on center. So that's actually a very good point you make. And also, you mentioned that he can put his guys away, but he's also a typical number 12, SA12 that can, attack the gain line and get you over the advantage line. So it's really weird for me that he actually didn't make the nod for the squad, to be honest.
Yes, and if you look at who our centers are going to be up against, they're going to be up against Bandi Aki, who's a wall. That guy's a wall in defense. Running over him is not an option. You have to get past him. You have to get around him. That's why you need a guy like Serfontein, who attacks the space rather than the man. He plays intelligent rugby. And like you said, he gets you over the goal line. Physically, he is extremely strong. And in a test series, that will no doubt bring out the physical side in both teams. That's what you need. You need strength and brains. And he brings both. So, and like you said, he forms a partnership with Reinach and Pollard already. On club level, they play together every week. So to bring him in a green and gold jersey and just continue with what they've been busy with for the last year, 2 years, that makes sense. It needs to happen.
Yeah, and the one that Challenge Cup together as well. So, I mean, there has been success. They know what to do. So it's not the worst thing in the world. So those are the concerns, obviously, we have for the Boxing Centre. And obviously now we started the Lions tour yesterday officially in South Africa, where they played against their namesake, is it Sigma Lions? I still need to get used to the new name.
I lost that. I was lost.
I did the commentary yesterday and I almost hit transfer and I thought, no, I can't do that. It was a very nightmare, to be honest. But the home side losing 56 points to 14. You can say they did a bit better in 2009, but the scoreline says one thing, but they didn't play badly for good half an hour. They actually were well in the game, and they probably could have scored a third, if Sangweni actually managed to score that try from its own half. So it was, I think the scoreline will flatter the British Lions a bit. That's what I mean with the struggle yesterday, the Lions and the Lions. But the scoreline might flatter them a bit, but I have to say, they also played very well. And I do think I was actually worried about Rudy's family, but I think Josh Adams will pose a major threat for the Boks in this series. But do you think that Gats will be happy with the performance and what are you seeing from these guys in this first match? And what do you think the Golden Lions, should I say, can take from a match like this?
Angus, firstly, if you look at the British and Irish Lions, and I want to bring in their game against Japan last week as well to bring perspective to what I'm going to say. Now, last week you had what is arguably going to be very close to the starting 15 in the tests you had against Japan. And now this week you had a whole host of other players who started against the Emirates Lions, or whatever they're called, against our Lions, let's say our Lions. They started against our Lions, with the exception of one or two players that did play last week, but basically it was a new team. They played well. I think they gave the selectors, the British Irish Lions selectors, they gave them a few headaches because I think Gatland has got his starting 15, I think 10 to 12 of those players are already figured out. However, after yesterday, a couple of players stuck their hands up. A couple of the Englishmen who came off the bench actually played. They impressed me. And they didn't have a good Six Nations, but they clearly put that behind them. They're in a different setup. They with a fresh coaching staff with other ideas, other way of doing things, and it's working for them. Our Lions, they said about 2 weeks ago, in preparation for this game, they're going to pick the most physical team that they can, and they're going to put an emphasis on experience. And immediately I thought about a guy like Yanni du Plessis who will then start. That guy he's as tough as they come. And then they went a complete different direction. They picked a bunch of youngsters who were going to get manhandled, I thought. And they weren't quite that manhandled, so that's a plus for them. I think both teams learned a lot from this game. The British Irish Lions, they've got a couple of new selection issues now because a couple of players stuck their hands up. And our Lions can be positive looking at the medium-term future for them. That a couple of these players have now staked a claim for playing more regularly. And it was a nice game. You know, it's nice to have them here after waiting for so long, and the uncertainty of whether they're even going to actually arrive in South Africa. If so, are they going to be able to play and what? And with this third wave, you know, your head is a strange thing. You see all the reasons why it cannot happen. But to their credit, Saru made it happen, and also the Lions brains trust. They found a way, and that needs to be applauded. We need positives in the whole world, but also in this country. And this is a positive. The fact that these games are going on, even though they play it in empty stadiums, so be it. The games are played. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with these players. Who of them are going to play, more. Who of them are going to get relevant game time going forward. It's going to be interesting, pretty interesting. But this is a strong touring party. If you go back to 97 Lions and the 2009 Lions, now those 97 guys, they were strong. That was a very strong touring party. These guys are stronger, and they're much stronger. So the Boks are up for a big one. This is going to be epic.
Major. I have to mention one guy who stood out for me in that game, and it is a local Lion, like I say, Vincent Chuka. He seems to be going week in and week out, and even after he scored that try, he seemed to have discredited his shoulder. He got up, made a few stretches, and played the whole game further on. And that was quite impressive on my side, to be honest. And I feel that him, specifically has a major future in the game.
Yeah, he impressed me as well. But this is the nature of the British Irish Lions, the Lions years. That's the nature of it. It brings out the best in players. It brings out your BMT in your players. It brings out match winners that you wouldn't necessarily have seen otherwise, because the opportunity is not always there for these guys to come up against the class of a Lions team. British Irish Lions team. Look at our Lions. They play Currie Cup. They're going to play a little bit of Pro 16, whatever they want to call it now, which is fine. But you only play against the likes of Leinster and Edinburgh like once a year. Okay, and if you get them in the playoffs, if you make the playoffs and get one of them there, then you'll face them again. Those are strong teams. But this is a whole different kettle of fish. And we're going to see more of these kinds of performances going on now. Like Wednesday when they're up against the Sharks. I'm expecting more of this. And it's exciting. It's nice to see these players stick their hands up and say, listen, here I am. I'm destined for bigger things. Take notice of me. I like it. It's good for rugby. It's healthy.
Definitely. And I said to, I was on the Tackle show the other day. And I said to him, the door's not closed for anyone. You can still have a guy like Vincent, for instance, put his hand up and say, listen, I'm available, pick me. So it's definitely something to play for. It's more than just playing for your provincial jersey. You can still play yourself into a national squad.
Yes.
It's never too late. Especially seeing that as well. And you mentioned the Sharks game. Now we'll get to that soon. But I wanted to ask you this. So, as a Free State supporter, not playing the British Lions, two questions. What's your feeling around it? And secondly, should you have played, and what do you think would the chances have been for the Free State Cheetahs team?
Um, well, we've been getting cold shoulder for long now. After the World Cup win, they didn't bring the World Cup to Bloemfontein. There was a clear snub. They went to the Eastern Cape twice, but they didn't come to us, not once. I get it that time is of the essence. Some of the players had to go to Europe. They had only a few days left. But still, if you can go to the Eastern Cape twice, you could have gone there once and come here once. And then we got kicked out of the Pro 14 rugby, which is a very sensitive issue. But okay, I'm capable of being objective, so I'll be objective now. We've lost so many players due to the fact that we're out of Europe. Okay, we're going to play Challenge Cup now, but still, we've lost so many players. And I can understand that. I mean, if you're the likes of Reino Smit or Jasper Wiese, you're obviously going to go overseas. You've got plenty of years left. You're going to get yourself the best deal that you can, and they did, and good for them. I'm all for it. But we are left with really, we're not the strongest team right now. And I'm afraid if we played against the British Lions, they would have given us a pasting, which in our instance is not a good thing. And it's not double standards after I've said that the Tonga game was a good thing. It's not, because we are trying to rebuild. We're coming through a very difficult time now. And to take such a hiding, that won't work. It's not good. But that said, the players would have had the opportunity to test themselves against these guys. A guy like Jacques Potgieter, who's actually won a Super Rugby with the Waratahs. You got a guy like Ruan Pienaar, who's a match winner in his own right. They would have liked to test themselves against these guys. They definitely would. But okay, we are where we are now, and it's there. So no, we've been treated badly lately. But it's a tough landscape right now. It's not easy for anyone. Also for us, it's not easy. There's no use in self-pity and looking for excuses. We just need to get on with it. But it's not easy. It's not easy right now. Don't be fooled. But we'll get through it. I mean, we've got the Challenge Cups situation. I'm going to play in that, so we can hopefully sign up a couple of players now. Hopefully, the sponsors will be happy because they're going to get emails now, airtime. So yeah, it's not all negative. There's hope, and we just need to stick it out and get through it.
Yeah, there's always a bright side to everything. I think Toyota signed on for 10 more years, right? Is that correct?
I'm not sure the length of time, but they did sign a significant extension. And with Saru being a little bit cash strapped right now, their financial injection to the different franchises has been cut by about a third, if I remember correctly. I'm not exactly sure. So immediately you're down a couple of million, but you still need to perform at the level that you were performing last year and the year before. So these kinds of sponsorships are very helpful and very welcome. And it also brings, it brings stability. You don't jump from one sponsor to the next, to the next, to the next every few years. Got a long-term deal with these guys. It's like Benetton Treviso. Benetton is a clothing company. They've been sponsoring them for so long that the team is known as Benetton. They're not known as Treviso, but they're known as Benetton, and it's a sponsorship, it's nothing else. So, that's the likes of what we've got here. With the Toyota Cheetahs, we're going to stay there, the Toyota Cheetahs, for a long time. So that is good. That's nice to see.
Yeah, it's actually awesome. But I'm also thinking now, I don't want the Stormers or Promise to be known as DHL.
Yes, that's true. But that won't happen. I think the likes of the Stormers, there's too much tradition there and too much history for them. No, they'll always be the Stormers. They'll always be Western Province and Province. You'll never have that. Sorry?
Now we say tongue in cheek, but now I'm saying it's tongue in cheek. But you never know these days.
Yeah, you never know. That's a fact.
Okay, now we can go to the Sharks game. So the Sharks went down to my beloved Western Province, but you have to be mindful of the fact that they scored 4 tries and we only scored 2, and it's merely through the boot of Tom Sewell that we won the game. But I'll take a win any day, especially against them. What do you think are their chances of playing against the British and Irish Lions? Because there's one guy that actually will, be able to play himself back into the Springbok mix. It's and looking to do so. It's Cohen Bosch. He has a lot to prove still. It's a perfect opportunity for him.
I guess the Sharks are going to give a better account of themselves, I think, than our Lions did. Well, for one, I think they're a stronger team. I mean, I'll probably be crucified for saying this, but I do think so. There is an insane amount of talent in that team. And like you say, the likes of Cohen Bosch, who's now been around the block a few times. He's the kind of guy that you want there. He brings that stability in the back line. His presence means a lot. And okay, he's got a couple of defensive issues, but still on attack, he gets he gets the job done. That's a fact. So I think, depending on which team the Lions are going to pick, if they're going to go to a pretty similar starting 15 that we've seen against our Lions, I expect a good game from the Sharks. They probably won't beat them, but they'll run them close. They'll stretch them, and that'll give the Boks a couple of more pointers with regards to the opposition as to what puts them under pressure and what you need to do against them, because they're not an unknown factor, but their combinations are an unknown factor. That you're going to have a back three that's never played together before. Your forward pack, you're looking at guys who still need to find each other. And we need to exploit that. And a game, or having more than one game that pushes those Lions to the limits, will open up that, and it'll show us what we need to do. So for the sake of the Boks, I hope that the Sharks put up a big one. The fact that they're playing at altitude, and they'll be very much acclimatized by now already, will play into the hands of a guy like Cohen Bosch, who likes to give it space, who likes to give it some air. It's a fact. The ball travels a little bit further up in the high veld than it does at the coastline. And it'll make for a good game. It'll make for a spectacle. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, I said also to that guys on the tackle show, Jaime Robertson, I said to them, with all due respect to Western Province, and it's a team I support, I think the Bulls and the Sharks probably have the better squads to get an upset in the series, to be honest. Although I hope, obviously, Province pulls one close like they did in 2009, but I think squad-wise and in terms of player depth, I think they are the ones to actually do it. So all the best to the Sharks in that game. I see that referee Griffin Colby joined us on the show, so this is a special welcome to him. But we're almost done here. So the last one we're going to talk about, obviously, is Australia and France. I know you have a bit of a French connection yourself. Obviously, Australia did fairly well last year in the Rugby Championship. They probably could have won it, wasn't it, for those against Argentina. It was very close. I think the All Blacks won the championship by only winning one game. So that was quite interesting. But second year now for Dave Rennie on the job. And the Aussie Super Rugby sides, they weren't that flashy when they played the Trans-Tasman. I think they got 2 wins out of 10 or something. It wasn't a great ratio. And the French, obviously, on a massive rise. Do you think that the French will do what Ireland did in 2016 and win the series, or England did in 2016 and win the series, or will the Aussies prevail?
I can actually see France win this. They left nearly all the experienced players behind. A guy like Paul Willems is vacationing at Swakopmund as we speak. Antoine Dupont is on holiday in Greece or something. He's also not there. So they left a whole host of experienced players behind. But make no mistake, these youngsters that are in Australia right now are ballers, like class players. The starting flyer on Wednesday, Louis Carunel, who plays for Toulon, is in my view the best fly off in France. He's better than Intermac. He's better than Jalibert. In my view, I rate him that highly. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what these kind of players are going to do on Wednesday. I think they're full of class. They're full of enterprise, and they're going to win the series. They are probably not going to win all 3 test matches, but I won't put that past them as well. But they will win the series. They're better than these Aussies. The Aussies aren't, like you said, their Super Rugby performances were pretty poor, and that doesn't always translate into the national team. But I think in this instance, those teams are so far behind the 8 ball that it will translate into the Wallabies team, and you're going to see substandard play from them. I really think so. The only reason why I say the result won't be a 3-0 is because I don't think the French, it's the age-old thing of them, they don't have the focus to put in 3 big performances in a row. They don't. There's always that one-off game that they bring, and that'll hand the win to the Wallabies. No, it's typical. That's just how they are. It's in their blood. It's in their blood. You know, I speak French, and I've spoken to a couple of people in France about this already. They asked them, why is this? And they can't tell me. The French can't tell me themselves why this is. They say it's just how it is. And they are as frustrated by it. But no, I think...
No, sorry, they tend to be overly emotional, especially in the first test.
Yeah, they do.
They get overly emotional. They forget to play the damn game in the end. I've seen this.
Yeah, but you know, Angus, a different angle on this that's been brought in lately is, if you look at the coaching staff, you've got a guy like, who's that guy from Wales, who's defence coach now, Shaun Edwards. You have Floxel here of South Africa, who's the kicking coach. And then you have Fabien Galtier, who's the head coach. Now, okay, he's French, but now with the difference that he brings, all right? These other 2 guys, they bring an international flavor to it. They take out the emotion, and they look straight at the objective facts, and they train the team accordingly, and you can see the results on the field. That French team is strong, make no mistake. But what Fabien Galtier brings is, he's a hard bastard. All right, he's got no tact and very little people skills, which normally would not put him in a good position to be a national rugby coach. But in this instance, the French players need to be managed because they are so emotional, and they get, you know, they let these things get to them. They need a hard bastard to keep them eyes on the prize, and that's what Fabien Galtier does very well. He did it with Montpellier, he did it with Toulon, and he's now doing it with France as well. So I think the combination of the coaching staff that they now have, that is worlds apart from what we've seen previously, that's also playing a big role in their success. And it's going to be interesting to see what game they bring to Australia. You know, I've seen Floxel years handing this clearly, with their kicking out of hand, but it's not aimless kicks that they do. They attack. They actually use their out of hand kicking as an attacking weapon. They put the opponent under pressure. And all respect to the Wallabies, but I don't think they're capable of the most intelligent game at the East. Really, I don't. They've got a good coach, but you can only work with the players that you have. And France, they're gonna exploit that and use it to their advantage. And I think we're going to see good rugby. We're going to see intelligent attacking from the French. Their defense has been up to scratch for a while now, so they're not going to leak tries. So it's going to be good rugby to watch. I'm looking forward to it.
That's going to be awesome. But you mentioned a couple of things that just got me thinking before we wrap up now. We always had teams like the Aussies, for instance. They played their domestic competition there, Super Rugby, and it was great to watch, don't get me wrong. And then they went to Trans-Tasman and got a wake-up call. But that's the first point I want to look at. Same with the Boks now. We've been playing each other for almost 2 years now. And the Bulls, I'm not saying the Bulls had a false sense of security or false sense of where they actually are. However, they went to Treviso, so everyone expected them to win the Rainbow Cup, and they got smashed. There could be different reasons for it. Obviously, they weren't mentally up for whatever the case may be, but the point is they got smashed. Now, we saw the Lions play the Lions, and it wasn't a bad game. We spoke about it. But do you think that, after playing each other for 2 years, it should be a problem for us? Because you also have to remember, we have guys coming in from overseas that has played top class rugby, that far from just Goldie Makazulu, Pimpi, all those guys. Whereas the Aussies, they don't have that benefit. They can only select from what they have, and that is in Australia.
That is a positive that we hold over there. And we hold that same advantage over the Argentinians. So I think, looking maybe a bit far ahead now, but those two things we should be able to scratch. All Blacks always bring a different game, and your A game usually isn't enough. So, but that's for another day. I think you are spot on in that the Wallabies have had the problem of they've been stuck in Australia now for a couple of years playing each other. Okay, they had the opportunity of playing against New Zealanders, but they didn't go harm the people, I think. I don't think their confidence can be very high at this stage. Playing against them more regularly, year after year, will have a long-term good effect. But right now, short-term, they're not in the right space. The French, the top 14 this year was fantastic. And add to that the fact that the Challenge Cup and Champions Cup were won by French teams. That, and the fact that France is that strong and their under 20s won, I think, the last 3 junior World Cups.
2 in a row, yeah.
Yeah, which also builds, Builds. I mean, the likes of Louis Carbonell won that one final for France under 20. He's that good. And you'll see it on Wednesday. People are going to be shocked, Angus. That guy is that good. I can't wait. And so, no, look, I think the French hold a distinct advantage over the Wallabies in the fact that they have had this exposure. Also, they played the English teams, they played the Irish and the Scottish teams as well. So they've had that exposure against those kind of quality players for several weeks in a row. So they battle home, they're sharp. I don't think the Wallabies are that sharp. I mean, if you fly over to New Zealand and you take 40 points weekend after weekend, what can you take from that? And then you're up against the likes of the French who are hungry. They are hungry. They have a clear plan. They're working towards a clear goal, which is 2023 World Cup. And everything is going to plan for them. Nothing is, well, very, very few things are going on, really. And just another thing that's just coming to mind, this young team that they've sent over. Do you remember the Autumn Nations Cup? That final that they lost to England in extra time at Twickenham. That French team on that day is the same team. Yes, it's the same team that's in Australia now. It's the same team that's down in Aussie now. Now, those guys, they're not going to lose to the Wallabies. There's no way. Again, they may lose one game, but that'll just be France being France. Looking at the series, they're not going to lose the series. There's no way. They're going to win it convincingly.
And as far as I know, that was an English A side playing against a French B side, and they almost lost that game.
Yes, well,
so,
I wouldn't.
Like you said, if this squad can replicate what they did in that match over a period of 3 weeks, they should be in with a shot to actually win the series.
Yes, I wouldn't go as far as calling them a B team. I would call them a young team. A young team, a young French team, which, okay, I can make a case for a B team, but still. That team that played against England and lost in extra time at Twickenham, those are the guys that the Aussies need to play now. So I think that answers your question. These Wallabies are going to have to bring their A game and then some, just to try and be competitive.
And it's actually also scary to think the sort of depth the French have built over the last couple of years. If they can send a team like that and leave some very experienced campaigners back at home as well.
Yes, definitely. They have that depth. And they have the confidence in their structure, system, and players to be able to leave those guys at home. Saying to a guy like Bernard Leroux, listen, chill out, rest your body, we're going to need you when we're back. Saying to a guy like Antoine Dupont, who's by far the best nine in the world, sorry, Faf, he's better than me. Saying to him, listen, we're going to give the other guys a chance. We know what we've got in you. We're going to need you when you play against the likes of New Zealand in November. So stay home, rest, give your body some downtime, and when you're back, you take up the reins again. Few teams can do that. I'm telling you, teams need their best players, but the French have thrown that out of the window, and that's just France being France again. They're the kind of guys who do that and get away with it. Do you remember the 2011 World Cup where they lost 2 pool games and still made it to the playoffs? That's France. Okay, they just don't care. They don't care. You know, that opening game against the All Blacks, where the All Blacks beat them handsomely in that World Cup. Afterwards, I saw an interview with Richie McCaw where he said the French captain came into the All Blacks dressing room after the game and says, we'll see you guys in the final. And those All Blacks just looked at each other and said, but what's this guy on? Because we've just smashed them and we're going to see them in the final. Well, history is there. They played in the final and they probably should have won it. So yeah, that's France. They lose to Tonga as well and still make the playoffs and then just take it
the final.
Yeah. So they're the kind of guys who get away with that every time. I love them. I love the French for that reason.
If I remember correctly.
Sorry?
Wasn't it? It was points difference that got them I think in second.
Yes, points difference. No, it was points difference. That's all that it was. And only a few points as well. They scraped into the playoffs. But then they made it count. All of a sudden they were a completely different team. They played some scintillating rugby and they made it count. Where they had an awful pool games. They were hard to watch. It was not nice watching them. And then they just turned it around like that without warning. That's the French. You gotta love them.
Before we finish up, all these things recollect through my mind now. I remember the body language of, I think it was McCaw and a couple of other players when Dusatwa went to go score and made it a 1-point ball game. And I think they started panicking there. It was such a tense final. But the French almost pulled the upset of the century or the decade, you can say, at that point. I think they managed to win that final. And it probably would have been a civil war in New Zealand if they lost that game that day.
Yeah, and I dare say if they lost that final, and they didn't, and clearly, but if they lost that final, they may well not have won the 2015 World Cup now.
Oh, definitely.
Because there's a knock-on
I actually mentioned this to Jacques, the yellow cap, and I said to him, and he agreed with me. I said to him, if you guys didn't win that 2007 final against the Sharks, you wouldn't have won 2 more trophies, because that squad would have never stayed together after that final. But they did that success, they won 2 more trophies. And it's just small things. I mean, they won that final through hands in the rug. We all know about it. The Sharks probably should have been the champions now, but they aren't. But that's just how it happened. And it's that one moment that can change a team's history forever.
And you know, look at the knock-on effect that this had. A guy like Jacques Potgieter, who went to Australia, took that winning formula with him, instilled it in arguably a strong Waratahs team, and won the trophy again. That's the kind of input that these guys have afterwards. A guy like Reenen Steenkamp, I mean, there's a reason why he's playing the kind of rugby that he's playing today. It's because he knows how to win. He knows how to win games from nothing, from nowhere. And he learned that in Pretoria, like it or not. That's where he learned it. And it shows.
Absolutely. But hey, we didn't plan to chat this long, but it's been fun, Reenen. Thanks for joining me on this cool-ish Sunday afternoon. I'm sure it's the same down in Bloem. We'll probably have a chat again soon. But you must stay safe, man, and keep well. And yeah, let's hope for a lekker week of rugby going forward. I mean, to be honest, I've lost track of when games are being played, because it's like the old days having midweek games again. So sometimes I'm like, oh damn, there's a game on tonight, and I don't even realize it. I mean, I actually forgot the junior box were playing yesterday, and then I turned the channel on and I'm like, damn, they're playing at Newlands. Great, let's watch it. And they won the game, which is great as well. But yeah, we'll have a chat again, my friend, and keep well, keep safe, and cheers.
Thanks, Angus, and thanks for the opportunity as well. Stay safe.
No problem. Bye bye.